When we made the video about Switzerland, a lot of people commented about the Holy Roman Empire and they weren't familiar with this empire and why it's called holy. So this clip is meant to explain what the Holy Roman Empire was and how it started. It's the 8th century and the Sasanian Persian Empire has been taken over by the Umayyads and they're trying to spread Islam all over the world. Not only did the Caliphate want to go through Anatolia to Europe, they also wanted to go to Europe from North Africa. And in the same century, they went from the Strait of Gibraltar into Spain and they very easily conquered Spain. Their plan was to enter Europe from modern-day France and basically take over the whole continent. But the Franks were ready to have a war with the Muslims. Let us go a few centuries back. Everybody knows the Roman Empire, and this is the era where the Western Roman Empire is collapsing, and the people in charge don't want an empty spot in the Western world, and they want to fill it. At around that time, most of the Western Roman Empire had German emperors, and they were the same people that made the Western Roman Empire collapse. And the same Germans that spread Arianism started the Holy Roman Empire. Everybody knows that Hitler considered Germany the Third Reich, which basically means the third realm or empire. So what does the Third Reich mean? In their ideology, the First Reich was the Holy Roman Empire, and just like we said, the Germans started it. The Second Reich is the German Empire, which started in the year 1871. But let's continue. We just wanted to tell you the meaning of the Third, Second, First Reich. Let's get back to the Muslims that have taken over Spain, and their idea is to spread their ideology toward the West. When they reach the Frank border, there is a war. The Frankish Empire at that time was Charles Martel, and they successfully defeat the Muslims. We get to the year 1751. Charles Martel dies, and his son Pepin the Short becomes king. His name was Pepin the Short, but we really aren't sure if he was short or not. This little guy had a very strong relationship with the church, and the Pope at that time was Stephen II. And in his mind, Pepin the Short was a well-deserved king, and you could have considered them allies. And what he did was make the king more powerful, and by doing that, he made the church even more powerful. You have to know that before this took place, the Pope and the church didn't have much power. But when Pepin the Short became allies with the church, they both rose up in power. After this, in the Frankish Empire, there was a war, a civil war. And then eventually, in the year 768 AD, a person by the name of Charlemagne overthrows Pepin the Short and becomes king of the Franks. When Charlemagne became king, he tried to give more power to the Christian religion, and that is why he became very friendly with Pope Leo, and once again, they both got extremely powerful. As you know, Rome was the city of the Pope, and at this time, it was under Frankish rule. At this time, Pope had an amazing idea. His idea was to stop the Muslims from attacking Europe. That is why his idea was to start up another empire. He did that, and he made Charlemagne the emperor of the Romans. But not the old Roman Empire you're used to, the new Holy Roman Empire. A lot of people in Europe were extremely angry about this, especially Empress Irene of the Byzantine Empire, and the capital was Constantinople. The Byzantine Empire believed that if the Roman Empire were to start up again, it should begin with the Byzantines, not on the west side where you can just start up an empire and call it a day. Before the Holy Roman Empire was formed, when it was called the Western Roman Empire, this is what the deal the Pope had with the emperors. And the deal was, whoever was emperor of the empire has to protect the church and the pope and keep the religion strong. And by doing that, the Pope will retain the favor and tell the religious people of the empire to be the supporter of the king. This contract was in order back in the day, but when the Roman Empire was turning holy, the Pope had much more power, and that is why most of the time the Pope had to choose the emperor, and he would tell the people that God has chosen your king, not myself. Pope Leo III, that was basically the starting step of the Holy Roman Empire, said another thing. And that was, we will never have an empress as emperor because God doesn't choose women to rule us. By saying this angered Irene, the empress of the Byzantine. And you could say the religious folks in that area were not a fan of this emperor. Either way, after Charlemagne, the Holy Roman Empire gets cut up like pizza. Each section has their own quote-unquote emperor, but the most powerful man is the Pope, and they're basically under the control of the church. None of the sections wanted to go independent because they were afraid that God doesn't choose them and the people would not be a fan. At this time, Western Europe had two main sections, West Francia and East Francia, and after a while, East Francia turned into the Kingdom of Germany. There is a very weird empire that has a lot of commotion, civil war, and you cannot compare it to the old Roman Empire in terms of safety and a stable kingdom. When we get to the year 936 AD, a German by the name of Otto the First, which is also considered Otto the Great, started to take over the empire so he can have control over the entire empire rather than a section, and he successfully actually takes his empire all the way to Rome. So once again, the Holy Roman Empire is in one person's hand. The Pope realizes that someone has came along that's more powerful than him. That is why he immediately announces that Otto the First came from God and now he's the Holy Roman Emperor. Otto the First did not like the Pope or the church having this much power, and he was very unlike Charlemagne. And you could say the Pope knew this, and that is why he was always planning on a method to overthrow Otto the First. But Otto the First was much smarter than you think, and he knew the Pope had turned on him. And that is why, in a few years, the Pope couldn't do anything about it. And on the plus side, John XII, which was the Pope at that time, was overthrown, and Benedict V became the new Pope. At this time, Otto I is more powerful than the Pope, but this doesn't mean the empire is stable and safe. Everywhere there is a war, and anyone that has a little bit more power, they bully the other people. Year after year, one darker than the other passes, and then we get to the year 1152 AD. This is the year where German Emperor Barbarossa comes into power, and he announces himself Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. This is the time when Pope Eugene III has been overthrown by the people of Rome. When the Pope is overthrown and Barbarossa is emperor, he immediately gets himself to the new king and asks Frederick Barbarossa, "If you make me Pope, I will announce to the people of the church that God has chosen you as emperor." After 3 years, by the year 1155, Barbarossa successfully returns the power to the Pope, and the Pope officially announces Barbarossa as the new emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. The people in power keep changing positions, but the people living in the Dark Ages are struggling and being killed for whatever. Religion is extremely radical, and nobody has permission to do anything, and if they do, they will be burned alive. You could say this is the true beginning of the Holy Roman Empire we know of, and until the year 1806, around 600 years, one of the worst empires Europe had ever seen thrived. And you could say in some areas, this empire took Europe back to the Stone Ages. We have a lot of videos about the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages of Europe because it's a very important lesson in human history. If you give religion too much power, But why did an empire that's extremely radical in religion form in Europe? In the beginning of the video, we said it was because of the Islamic religion. The Caliphate had sandwiched Europe from east and west, and the Europeans had no power against the Muslims except their religion. And by doing that, the Pope decided to make the Christian religion more radical and more strict. Anything non-religious done by a citizen, you were punished heavily. You will be considered a witch and be burned alive. Any philosopher or thinker that wanted to think, they were punished for it. So this video was about the Holy Roman Empire and why it formed. And with this clip we found that not only was this not an empire, it was not holy either.